My story, like many others, involves me travelling to Thailand, falling in love with a Thai girl, and convincing myself that I can make this relationship work once I get back home. As far as I was aware, she was not a bar girl. She was a normal girl, worked a normal job, and she was genuinely interested in being with me. Things didn't go south just because of her, or because there was big money involved. I think most of it was due to bad timing on my side. I am sure many guys have been in my position before, and maybe a handful of you have come out on the other side and made it work. So, after I tell my story, I am also looking for a bit of advice. As a long-time listener to your channel, one comment a viewer left on a story has always stuck with me, and that comment said that for the majority of Thai girls, it is the very first relationship with a Westerner which has the greatest chance of working out. I imagine this especially applies to Thai bar girls, who no doubt become very jaded quickly in their perception of farangs, money and sponsors. I guess that the longer a girl works in a bar, the less they are looking for actual love and care more about finding that farang that is going to sponsor them and support them with everything they want. Having visited Thailand and Southeast Asia on numerous occasions, I have to say I agree wholeheartedly with that comment. However, I would say, even though most men in these stories complain that it's the Thai girl's actions that mess things up, I believe that the man shares at least 50% of the blame. I'm not saying this to knock anyone. I learnt it the hard way. I made choices, missed the signals, and let feelings run the show, so I'll own my part first and tell it straight. Probably the best way for me to explain what I mean is with my own story, and then hopefully hear the viewer's input as well at the end. I'm 25 years old, I'm from the UK, in pretty good shape, I'm educated, and I like to think of myself as okay looking. I'm no George Clooney, but I'm no Shrek either. At my age, I wasn't really thinking too far ahead. I just wanted to go away, see something new, and enjoy myself after finishing university. No big plans and no big expectations. I first visited Thailand just after finishing university. I originally went out there with my Western girlfriend for 3 months. However, our relationship quickly went pear-shaped and we split up after just the first week. I do see some Western couples in Thailand, but after my experience, I completely advise people against going there with your girlfriend, especially if you are a younger man like I was, with very little experience of life outside of the UK. You will see things you have never seen before. You will be confronted with beautiful women every day, and although at the time I thought I loved my girlfriend, I knew very early on that trip that we weren't going to work in the long run. It's safe to say that I was bitten by the Thailand bug within the first 24 hours of being in the country. Those first few days on my own felt a little strange. One minute I was in a relationship, the next I was single in a country I barely knew. I could have flown home, but something told me to stick it out and see where things went. This was my first time being in a different country as a man, and now I was alone in that country. It's hard to explain that nervous but very excited feeling. After experiencing the craziness of Bangkok, everything from the insanity of the traffic to the eye-opening nightlife, I headed down to Phuket, where I would meet my future girlfriend, Pet, who worked as a waitress in a restaurant. At first, it was nothing more than small talk over food and drinks. She worked at a very small restaurant next to my hotel, so I would often go in and see her around the place. We'd chat a bit, and before long, I found myself purposely going in just to see her, and then I finally asked if she wanted to go out sometime. Probably not the best thing I could have done, jumping straight into the dating scene after coming out of a relationship less than a week ago, but there I was, and there was just something about Pet. Like most guys say, whether it's true or not, I wasn't planning on getting a Thai girlfriend, it just happened. Along the way, there were a fair number of misunderstandings, especially with Pet. She would act shy, and sometimes it even felt like she was ashamed being with me in public, especially in a tourist destination like Phuket. I did ask her about this, and she just said that she did not want people to think we had met in a bar or something, so I just put it down to her being paranoid. It did take a bit of patience on both sides. I had to learn when to back off, when to just listen, and when to laugh things off instead of taking them to heart. Slowly, the awkward moments went away and things were great. After going out on dates over the next 2 weeks, we ended up getting close and we became an item. So, what happened next? I knew I didn't want to spend the next 2 months in Phuket, so after a lengthy heart-to-heart talk with Pet, I persuaded her to leave her job and come travelling with me around Asia. I had already booked the flights, the hotels and the tours, as I was meant to be going along with my girlfriend, so all I would have to do would be to change some of the things into Pet's name. I wasn't sure if she'd actually say yes, but the fact that she trusted me enough to take that leap made me feel like what we had was more than just a holiday fling. She did take care of her elderly parents in Isan by sending them 5,000 baht every month, so I agreed to do this while she was travelling with me. I figured that's the least I could do. It wasn't a massive amount like you hear in some of these stories, and it was only a small price to pay to get her to come with me. We began our travels by first visiting Pet's family in Isan, then travelling on to Laos, then Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, before finally returning to Bangkok. Those months were full on. Long bus rides, cheap rooms, street food, and figuring stuff out together day by day. It wasn't always smiles and laughter. There were some disagreements, as expected, but we stuck it out and I pretty much had the best time of my life. It sounds stupid to say it, but I think those 3 months were the closest my life will ever be to a romance movie, in that I met an amazing girl and took her on an amazing journey, and for every day of those 3 months I was amazingly happy. I'd never felt that kind of happiness before. Waking up next to her, even on the days where we wanted a break and just stayed in the room ordering food, it all felt right in a way I couldn't really explain at the time. Don't get me wrong, I'd had a fair few girlfriends before at university, but this was something entirely different. I used to think cliches like love at first sight and my heart feels like it wants to burst were just that, cliches. But then I found myself believing in all the cheese, all of the romantic sayings. I felt them. 3 months later, Pet and I were sitting in a Bangkok hotel room. Pet, she was crying silently, whilst I stared at the TV, watching but not really paying attention. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there, stuck between wanting to comfort her and knowing I couldn't change the fact I was leaving. My return flight to London was the next day, and I faced an uncertain future. After 3 months of total bliss, I was going home broke with a maxed out overdraft and 2 maxed out credit cards, with no job and to live with my parents again. I kept telling myself it was only goodbye for now, but deep down I wasn't sure when or how we'd even see each other again. meanwhile, was planning on going back to Phuket, but by no means was it certain her job would be available again after such a long time away. That should have been the end. That is where the story should have stopped. I went to Thailand, fell in love with a Thai girl, wanted to be together forever, and then I went home, returning to my life in England and being happy with my experience in Thailand, fading into a memory, to become almost like a dream. Everyone told me that was what I should have done. My parents and my friends that I told about me and Pet were instantly skeptical, saying that I should just be satisfied at having a great holiday romance. They all said, how could I ever get a visa for Pet to come to the UK when I had no money and she had never left Thailand before? And even if I did, Thai girls all just want your money, right? In fairness, I can't dismiss them as naysayers. After all, they were just looking out for my best interests. And they did have a point. How was I going to make this work? But as I turned to look at Pet while we were sat there, this incredibly beautiful, funny, generous Thai girl with tears streaming down her face, I knew I couldn't let her just become a memory. I had to make this work somehow. What happened next? Well, against everyone's expectations, I made it work. The second I got home, I was on the internet job hunting, armed only with my recent university degree and the love I had for Pet. Only 2 weeks later, and after only 4 interviews, I landed an entry-level job at a top investment bank in London. The money wasn't spectacular by most people's standards, but for an ex-student, it felt like a fortune. I instantly began saving up as much as I could so that Pet and I could be together again. Every payday felt like progress. I'd cut corners, miss nights out with my friends, and just watch the savings pile up because I knew exactly what it was for. My life really did consist of working as much as I could, going home, speaking with Pet, eating cheap food, and then doing it all over again the next day. I slaved away solidly from the moment I started working up until Christmas when I went out to see Pet in Thailand again. It was only for 2 weeks this time, which felt extremely short compared to before. However, we made every moment together count, and more importantly, submitted a visa application to the UK Embassy in Bangkok, which was approved. We had been told that the visa application would be very hard, take a lot of time, and would probably be rejected. I know a lot of people are against using visa agencies, but we thought spending a bit more money and having a higher chance of getting accepted would be worth it, and I'm glad we went down that route. So Pet then came to visit me in the UK for 6 months, a visit which went better than my wildest dreams. Before she came to the UK, it was just text messages and video calls. Not exactly the best scenario for a relationship, but something we had to live with. Having her in the UK changed everything. Suddenly, it wasn't a long-distance thing anymore. It was day-to-day life together, and it actually worked. My mother, who was perhaps Pet's biggest critic before meeting her, fell in love with her, and they became the best of friends. My friends were stunned by her beauty and charmed by her innocent, naive Thai persona. It was a great feeling because, let's be honest, when a Western man says that they have met a Thai girl, the first thing people think is that she is in it for the money. She's a gold digger and she is using him. So it felt good watching her fit in so easily. Like all the doubts and the warnings I'd heard before were miles off of the mark. Even against my expectations, she really enjoyed the UK. She didn't mind the cold, thought the people were actually friendlier and less judgmental than Thais, and all in all fell in love with the place. She loved going exploring with me, and she even enjoyed the pubs in my area. She told me that when she goes out with her friends in a Western bar in Thailand, she would always ask if they serve pints of beer on tap because that is what she prefers now. When Pet went back to Thailand, it was certainly a sad day waving her off at Heathrow Airport, but it also felt good when I compared our situation to a year earlier when I had no money, no job and no visa. Saying goodbye hurt, but this time it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like we'd proved we could handle the distance and still keep moving forward. We had overcome the odds and won my family and friends around. I felt sure that the future could only hold more happiness. And, of course, that was where it all went wrong. Looking back, the signs were obvious, even if they didn't seem so at the time. After she got back to Thailand, our course shifted, less jokes and more talks about the future. On the phone, Pet started to drop heavier and heavier hints about marriage and became increasingly upset when I would just laugh her off. Of course, I loved her and wanted to be with her. However, I still lived at home with my parents. And anyway, I was only 25 and she was 27. We had our whole lives ahead of us. There were still a lot of things I wanted to do in my life. I still wanted to be with her though, so I guess it was kind of selfish of me. I really did think time was on our side, that we could wait a bit and nothing would change. But looking back, that was me being naive. Things just started to go downhill from there, although I was still confident everything would be better when I went out to visit her again. But the more I tried to keep things normal, the more distance she seemed to get. Eventually, she would start not answering her phone, not replying to text messages, and just being unreachable. When we would actually talk, the conversation would turn into her saying I didn't care about her and that I didn't care about being with her. Obviously, that was her overthinking. I just was not ready for marriage yet, but it didn't mean I wouldn't be ready for it in the future. Then she dropped the bombshell. She had met someone else, an older Westerner who was serious about her and wanted marriage, and that although she still loved me, she had to secure her future for herself and her family. Hearing that, it felt like a punch in the gut, but at the same time, I could tell she had already made her decision. Obviously, she had met this man and started going with him while she was still talking to me. It's not like she met him one night and then told me she's breaking up with me the next day. That's what kinda hurts the most. She told me she wouldn't be beautiful forever, and if we waited another 3 or 4 years like I wanted to, we might break up and she would be back at square one searching for happiness. I didn't have an answer for that. Nothing I could say anyway was going to change her mind. I do understand her in a way, so I can't really blame her. We both wanted different things at that point in our lives. Maybe if I had given in and married her early, we wouldn't have worked out. So maybe I dodged a bullet. To say I was distraught though would be an understatement. I think Pet is now engaged to this guy and she will soon be going to live with him in Australia. My story isn't the point of my submission really, and I apologise for talking about myself so much. It's only because I'm such a good example that I felt it's best to tell my experiences to get to the point. What happened with my story has me thinking, how can a second, third or fourth long-distance relationship work? After Pet and I finished, I visited Thailand again, going for another month-long holiday. This trip was with backpacker mates from university. I had second thoughts about going to Southeast Asia again after Pet, but I put these fears to one side, and I'm glad I did, as I very much enjoyed Copenhagen, Koh Samet and Chiang Mai, places I hadn't previously visited. Being back in Thailand reminded me why I liked the country in the first place, even if things with Pet had ended badly. My problem, though, is with choosing a Thai girl. Meeting them is easy. I've generally stayed away from the go-go and beer bars, preferring to go to more mainstream clubs or just talking to girls that I meet out and about. That way, I felt like I was meeting more normal girls, not ones just working the bar scene. This isn't a problem, as in places like Khao San Road in Bangkok, it's not incredibly hard to pick up girls. You just need to be friendly, chat to them, and buy them a few drinks. Having spent some time in Thailand now, I'm able to speak some Thai, albeit very bad, which also helps get the conversation flowing. It breaks the ice straight away, and even if I mess up a word or two, they usually laugh and it makes things easier. So along the way, I've met a whole variety of girls. High-so girls, ex-bar girls, receptionists, bank workers, university students. They've all been great, or most of them anyway. The problem is me. Like a bar girl, I feel jaded. Let's face it, if I want another proper relationship with a Thai girl, it is going to involve a lot of emotional and financial investment. Not necessarily sponsorship, but visa costs, plane tickets, holidays to Thailand, all that stuff. My question to you guys is, how do you make that choice? How do you choose that girl for a long-term relationship? It's the part that I keep getting stuck on, because the risk feels bigger the second time around. I guess if you live in Thailand, it's somewhat easier, and I realise I was perhaps somewhat blessed in having 3 months to spend with my ex-girlfriend. These days, with work and life back home, I don't have that kind of time to play with. So now that living in Thailand isn't an option, does that mean it isn't possible to meet your dream girl in just a short space of time? Case in point, 3 weeks ago, on my last trip, I met a special girl. Her name is Nok. She works for a large fashion house in Bangkok. She was educated in the States and lives in a pretty decent condo with her sister in the Ekamai district. On paper, she seemed out of my league, but in person, she was very easy to talk to, and she didn't act stuck up at all. I met her at a club on Khao San Road, where she was out celebrating her sister's birthday with her friends. I bought her a few drinks and things just went from there. Her English is great. She's funny, generous and caring. Plus, she's well travelled, having lived in California and also been to Australia on a working holiday. So, what's the downside? Why aren't I over the moon that I met this awesome girl several weeks ago? Well, a few reasons. The first thing that stood out was the age gap, even if it wasn't a huge deal. She's a bit older than me at 32. This is quite minor, as she is beautiful and would easily pass for 25. Plus, I think chatting to a more mature woman is actually pretty good in terms of a conversation. But the bigger issue came up soon after, and it changed how I felt about the whole thing. She has a half American son. This is the main deal breaker. If I'd met her in the UK, I might be able to overlook this. But in somewhere like Thailand, with so many beautiful, baggage-free girls, it would seem kind of odd to pursue such a relationship. Anyway, there you have it, my dilemma, and one which I believe must be shared with a lot of Western guys. It is easy enough at start when everything feels new and exciting, but the real test is what comes after. It's okay the first time meeting your first Thai love, whether in a Pattaya bar or in 7-Eleven in Bangkok. But does visiting Isan and meeting the family have the same appeal? Or what about making a visa application or saving up the money for her plane ticket? Secondly, what about your family and friends? They might tolerate 1 or maybe 2 Thai girlfriends, or any more than that, and you will likely be looked at as a bit of a joke back home, even if you did meet them in a normal place and not a bar. So for me, this means a second Thai girlfriend would be my last chance. If it doesn't work out, the UK border agency probably won't give me a visa for a third Thai girl, and even if they did, my family wouldn't give them their seal of approval. I apologise for this long and rambling submission. I didn't intend it to be this long when I started typing it out, but I guess I'm just putting this out there to see how many of you guys have dealt with this situation. What did you guys do after your first major Thai relationship didn't work out? How did you go about meeting a second Thai girl? Did that relationship work out, or did it also fail? I guess the reason I am stuck on having a relationship with a Thai woman is because as soon as I visited for the first time, I instantly lost interest in Western women. And I'm sure a lot of you have the same feeling. Like I said, I'd be interested in hearing everyone's story, whether you met your girlfriend at a high-sell university or dancing around in a club. I want to know if it is possible to have another long-distance relationship after the first one fails. Or is that comment right in that after the first long-distance romance goes sour, all the other ones after that are almost certainly doomed?